Hello, amazing viewers. I welcome you back to my channel. It's your girl Glory Chege, and I'm saying Happy New Year to you all because this is actually going to be my first video for the year. So, without more talking, today I want to show you some few mistakes that you can make while making your fondant that will actually affect your fondant. Like in my other videos I have in my channel, I do state them, but for this particular tutorial, I'm going to be making the fondant and actually making the mistake with the fondant. So basically, I'm sacrificing my fondant, my strength, and my time, just to show you how your fondant will turn out when you make these mistakes. Okay, so I'll be mixing up fondant 3 times. Now bear this in mind, those fondants I'm calling mistakes, like these mistakes I'm calling, how do I say this, like these fondants I'm calling a mistake or so. These are actually the mistakes I saw to be normal before. I saw it to be normal before, like this is actually some things that I do, and I never picked up that this is actually a mistake, and I still worked with my fondant, and it's okay, but when the perfection is never there. So for my beginners, I tell you to stay put to this video, watch all through. So without much more talking, let's dive into this video. Let's make these mistakes, okay, so that you see what it's going to be like. So now to begin this tutorial, I want you to always bear this in mind. I've never said this in any of my videos. Whenever you are making fondants, always have an extra. When I say extra, I mean differently from that pack you are making. I'm making 500 grams of icing sugar, so I'm having an extra icing sugar in a different pack. Now you're buying 1 kg of icing sugar, for instance. Make sure you're buying 1.5 kg. You might be needing it. This is the reason, because measuring glucose can be very tricky. Your glucose syrup is a very sticky ingredient that you might measure, and you measure higher than you needed, and after making your fondant, you might find out that your fondant is still very sticky and pretty wet, and for that reason you'll be needing an extra icing sugar to thicken it and to harden it. So always bear this in mind, very important. Now for our first experiment is allowing the water in this pot to boil. If you can remember vividly, I always say do not allow the water in your pot or in your saucepan to boil while melting your gelatin and your glucose syrup. But for the aim of this tutorial, we are going to actually make the mistakes that we are supposed to avoid, and for that I'm going to allow the water in this pot to boil while I'm melting my gelatin and my glucose. And remember, I won't necessarily be telling you the measurement of ingredients I'm using in this tutorial, but in case you need a fondant making video, do well to go down to my channel. You will see amazing fondant making videos over there, okay? But in this tutorial I'm making 500 grams of icing sugar, okay, and the measurement for 500 grams of icing sugar will be in the description bar of this particular tutorial, to be in the description bar, okay? So let's head to our aim for today. So while still waiting for the water to boil, normally quickly I measure in my glucose syrup as usual. Now here is the thing, take a look at my pot, it's already bubbling, okay? At this stage you are meant to turn off your gas cooker, okay, and allow your mixture to melt under the hot water on its own. Now at this stage you leave it like this to melt for a while without turning on the fire. Then for a little while, then you can now turn it on again. That is how you should do it on a normal ground. But for the purpose of this tutorial, making the mistake we are not supposed to make, I'm still going to turn on my gas cooker and allow the water to boil, and to boil more than the way it should have boiled, okay? But on a normal state, don't allow it to boil. Once you see the bubbles under your pot, you turn it off, okay? That is the right thing to do. So now I'm turning it on again, and I'm going to allow it to boil this time around. So here is the second boiling again, and this time around I'm going to be allowing it to boil longer than it should, okay? And I don't want this video to take much time, so I might not be showing you how long I allowed it to boil, but normally boiling till this extent is not normal. I'm not supposed to allow it to boil to this extent, but for the aim of this video I allowed it to boil. All right, over to our second mistake of the day. Now our mixture is down from the fire. We are done melting, so what we are supposed to do is allow it to cool off a little, not too cold and not too hot. So how did I teach you to know when your mixture is ready? I say you dip your finger in, and if your finger can accommodate the hotness, like if you can actually comfortably put your finger for like a minute or some seconds without feeling so much hotness or burn in your fingers, then you know that your mixture is properly ready for you to pour into your icing sugar and use. Now you don't use it while it is still too hot or while it is already over cold. If it's over cold, you can actually warm it up a little before making use of it. Now, what does it do to your fondant when you use it over cold or over hot? It stiffens your fondant. It makes your fondant to get stiffed. Okay, so you will not have a dense and a very fluffy light fondant. Bear this in mind. So for the success of today's tutorial, I poured in my glucose and my gelatin mixture while they were still very hot into my icing sugar. So I'm going to be mixing them up, and the rest of the video I'll put them in a fast mode so that we don't have to spend much time. We are actually making all the makeable mistakes, remember, in this tutorial to see how it actually affects your fondant afterwards. So let's keep watching. Okay, I want you to take a look at my fondant at this point. Now my fondant is already looking dried and stiff, whereas it's not supposed to be that way. At this point, my fondant is supposed to still be in a moldy form, like ready to collect more icing sugar. But at this point, I'm even begging my fondant to take in the icing sugar I have in my kneading surface. And when you have fondant like this, believe me, you will not be needing an extra sieve of icing sugar into it. Okay, so this is what you get when you make a mistake of allowing the water in your pot to boil, or adding your mixture while it is still hot or pretty cold. So I did myself a very good thing. So I added just half tablespoon of c.m.c, half tablespoon alone. Okay, and always remember, c.m.c, tylose powder, these both items are the same. So whichever one you have or whichever one you could get in your cake shop, just buy and use. They are both the same thing. Okay, so I added just half tablespoon of c.m.c because I don't want this fondant to get more and more dried, making it very difficult for me to use the very day I will be making use of the fondant. Okay, so in my next batch of fondant that we are going to make and making a different kind of mistake. Now remember, I'm not going to be taking you through measuring of my gelatin, melting it. No, we are going to head straight to that one. We are going to be making a different kind of mistake in that one. Okay, because for this particular fondant, I'm done already. So we are going to be wrapping it up at this level. All right, and head to the second fondant. So this is our second batch of fondant making, and with this second one I did not make the mistake I made with the first one. Now I did not allow the water in my pot to boil while I was melting the mixture, neither did I pour in the mixture while it was super hot or totally cold. So I made everything to be the way it's supposed to be. I'm just going to be mixing this up, and I want you to take a look at my fondant at this level. You would notice that my fondant is still very fragile. Just watch how I'm mixing up. You see, it's still very light and fragile. Okay, so what I do at this point is I add in my c.m.c or my tylose powder that I need. All right, I added 1 full tablespoon of c.m.c to my fondant, which I'll still be adding another one later. So that is the mistake I want you to point out with this second batch of fondant. This is something I learned newly. I stated it in the last fondant video I have in my channel. This is something I learned newly, and I'm glad I did. Okay, so adding up the full measurement of tylose powder or c.m.c you need for a particular fondant is not good. And here is the second spoon of c.m.c I just added to it, making it 2 tablespoons of CMC I used for this batch of fondant. Now for 500 grams of fondant, you need 1.5 tablespoon of CMC or 2 tablespoons. So that is actually the 2 tablespoons I made use of now. So something I learned newly is making use of the full measurement of CMC or tylose powder you need for your fondant. That particular day you are making it is not advisable. Okay, it's not advisable. It's good if you are adding just half tablespoon, that is for 500 grams of fondant. Okay, you add half tablespoon of CMC or tylose powder to it that very day and wrap it up and store till the very day you will be needing it. Then you bring it out and check how much CMC you should add on that very day. Okay, so this is the mistake I've been making for years. You can imagine then making the previous mistakes we made with the first fondant we made, and then still have to make the mistake of adding the full CMC or tylose powder in that particular fondant. You see, you're making a huge mess to your fondant. Now this CMC leaves your fondant to be totally dried when you add it up on that very day you are making it, and still have to store it for a longer time. It's only advisable to add the full measurement of your CMC or tylose powder if you're going to be making use of it that particular day or in few hours time or the next day. Then it's advisable to add it up at that moment you're making it. But if not, it's advisable to just add half of it. Then the very day you're going to be making use of that fondant, then you can add the full amount that you actually need. Okay, so we'll head over to the last fondant. That one, there will be no mistake at all. So let's take a break. If you're yet to subscribe to this channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Do well to subscribe. Remember, subscription is absolutely free. Like, it means nothing to you. It takes no penny from your pocket. Like I always say, it takes no penny from you or from your purse, but it means a whole lot to me. Like, this is a way of supporting me for bringing up new updates for you. Welcome back. So this is our third batch of fondant, and I'll be adding half tablespoon of CMC to it, just half tablespoon alone. So for this third batch, I call it Mr. Perfect. The reason is the mistake we made with our first batch and the second batch of fondant making, I did not make it with this one. So I actually made this fondant exactly how I do make my fondant now, like how the fondant should be made. All right, so I'll be wrapping up these 3 batches of fondant and just label them in order to differentiate it. So after some days or a week, I will make a video for you to see. Okay, I'll be making a video for you guys to see how our fondant turned out. So you actually by yourself, you will see and you will call the results yourself. All right, so this tutorial, do not take it for granted. All right, if you're a beginner and you're making fondant, just take and follow these steps. Right, avoid these mistakes I've taught you in this tutorial. Believe me, you're going to be making use of your fondant like a pro. So here are the label that I made on it in order to differentiate it. All right, okay, so make your fondant this way and you'll be glad you did, and avoid these mistakes whenever you're making your fondant, and your fondant will look like a pro. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Stay tuned. See you in my next video. Bye.